What? Whoa. Nah, we still got it. Hey. First, let me just apologize for the technical difficulties. All of a sudden, our live stream was just shut right down in our face. So, very interesting occurrence. And I'm asking you all to be very patient with us as we are dealing with the real domestic terrorists who could log in and shut down internet networks willy-nilly. So I'm asking all persons to sign back on to the live stream. Sign back on to the live stream. Right? We sent out a new link. We created a new link, so sign back on to the live stream and let us go. So let us hope they don't shut this one down now. So as I was saying though, let us continue to focus on the important issues. We started to speak about the $500 million US loan, which is $1 billion Barbados dollars, in the international market. And the Minister in the Ministry of Finance, Ryan Strong, as he spoke in the House of Assembly on a resolution under the External Loans Act, sought to give assurance that this financial arrangement is a better one for Barbados to enter. Now, I would have said earlier that the minister is refusing, Mr. Ryan Strong, to acknowledge that Barbados is indeed in a debt trap. And how could you refinance a 1% loan or 2% loan or even a 3% loan or even a 4% loan with an interest rate of 8%? Now, it is quite obvious that this new financial arrangement will be more costly to the taxpayers of Barbados in terms of a higher interest repayment to the Barbadian from the Barbadian taxpayers to these international investors. So this absurdly high cost of borrowing that the government is faced with is a way that the international lenders to Barbados will secure themselves against the riskiness of lending to a country which credit rating is in total junk status. With a high overall public debt that is trending towards $16 billion, a high public debt that is trending towards $16 billion, debt service or interest alone for financial year 2024 to 2025 is at a disturbing level of $2.2 billion in interest payments alone. The minister in the Ministry of Finance has said, right? The minister in the Ministry of Finance has said that this new bond has been snapped up by more than 90 global investors, which will allow Barbados to repay about US $340 million on a bond that was due to mature in 2029. So it's mature in 2029, but we borrowing money to pay it back now. A $142 million debt payment to the International Monetary Fund, again, which was supposed to be a 1% loan or a 2% loan from the IMF. You're borrowing at 8%, and then you're saying that you're freeing up $372 million in resources or whatever. So I should ask Mr. Strong if he could tell the public if this loan is another variable interest rate loan that is tied to the LIBOR rate, the LIBOR rate, and this tie could potentially see this 8% interest jump from 8 to 12%, much like what happened with the cheap loans that jumped from 1 to 4%, right? Which represents a 400% basis point increase. So this led the Prime Minister to go on the global stage to advocate at the US Treasury Department to have an ease in trying to reform the global financial system under what they call the Bridgetown Initiative, which was revamped to Bridgetown 1.0 and 2.0 and everything 3.0, but it continues to be a failure in terms of addressing or trying to get these international institutions to see it our way. And to quote Professor Justin Robinson, he said, and I quote, that the government spoke to the immorality of these rate increases on loans from the development institutions and the urgent need for relief to the developing countries facing higher than expected debt costs. And he said he wishes the government well in their campaign, as any relief on these rates will be welcome. However, he fears that this will be an exceeding difficult battle to win, and I agree. So to quote Alternate Views, as you can see here, which is a book written by yours truly, published in February 2022, the month after the election, which was held in January 2022. Chapter 15 of Alternate Views, Barbados' Economic Road to Republic, stated, and Mr. Ryan Strawn and Mr. Indar and the other politicians who are speaking about this loan should read Alternate Views. Chapter 15, which says that the reason why, I'm giving you the reason why they have to borrow 8%, is that the initial decision to default on the government of Barbados' debt in May 2018 caused way more damage than they already told the country. So one, it caused them to be banned from the credit markets. I know that they're trying to return to the markets. Obviously, it will come with an increased cost to cover from the fact that they defaulted before, so you're at risk. That was obvious. So after defaulting on those debts, the credit ratings, usually when you default on debts, your credit ratings remain low and unattractive for investors. So to encourage investors to hold your bonds, you have to shell out more money. And that's the reason why they're paying so much in terms of 8%. You see, for a loss in foreign direct investment, and you see disruptions to local firms and institutions who need foreign exchange, because a company's credit rating really and truly shouldn't be higher than the country's sovereign credit rating. So a country's sovereign credit rating has a serious impact for local company. Hence the reason why you see some companies going to Bermuda, leaving Barbados' shores to go to Bermuda, because Bermuda has a much better credit rating. Our last concern is the continued elevation of foreign debt in the face of a tourism product that is not recovering in terms of financial loot. We are not earning the amounts that we used to earn from tourism. So therefore, if your main foreign exchange earner is not earning you that money, it is inevitable that you have to continue to borrow and borrow at high rates. So therefore, it is only reasonable. And this was predicted by Professor Onafa, former Prime Minister before he passed. This was predicted by Anthony Wood, economist. This was predicted by Michael Howard. And it was also predicted by myself, Kimar Stewart, in my book, where a perpetual borrowing relationship where Barbados has to be constantly borrowing to repay these international debts will engulf the country. And therefore, our financial resources will be going to paying off debts as opposed to tackling the issues in this country. So healthcare rotten, housing rotten. You're borrowing money to do roads, you ain't doing those out there where you earn, and everything continues to plummet because our resources are going to pay back debt. So that is the end of my speech. Again, we apologize for the technical glitch in between. And now I want to hand over to Mr. Goring, who will be the spokesperson, on youth, sports and youth, who's also our candidate for Christchurch East Central. So over to you, Mr. Goring.
Good evening, Barbados. Today, I'm not here to read a statement, but I'm here to issue a wake-up call. Because what is happening to sports and youth in this country is unacceptable, and it needs to stop. There was a time when sports was in our blood. Evenings filled with football in the gap, cricket on the beach, netball under the lights. But today, this fire is fading. Our youth are less active, less supported, and in too many cases, left behind. Let me call it what it is. Sports in Barbados is in crisis. Our communities are watching fields turn to bush. Our schools are cutting physical education. Coaches, the backbone of youth development, are underpaid, undertrained, and overlooked. And yet, we act surprised when our youth is turning to violence, crime, or even hopelessness. We need to get real, Barbados. Barbados has one of the highest diabetes and cancer rates in the Caribbean. Nearly 1 in 5 in adults has diabetes in Barbados. Obesity is skyrocketing, even in children. We are raising a generation that is sick, stressed, and disconnected, while the cure is sitting right in front of us the whole time. Sports is just not a game. Sports is medicine. Sports is mentorship. Sports is opportunity. And let me be crystal clear, Barbados. Barbados does not have a talent issue. We have an infrastructure problem. We have the athletes. What they need is a chance. Just look, Shade Williams, rewriting history on the track. Jason Holder, one of the finest all-rounder cricketers. Hayley Matthews, leading West Indies women cricket with brilliance. Obadeli Thompson, Olympic bronze medalist and national hero. Ramon Gittins, Akila Jones, and Shane Bradford, all world-class talent born right here in Barbados. So why is it that we are starving the next generation for opportunities? That's why today I'm making a pledge under the NNP. Within 10 years, Barbados will produce athletes in top leagues, from football to netball, from cricket to track. That's not a dream, that's not a goal, that's a goal, and we are building it. Now here's the plan. We will rebuild community sport facilities island-wide, safe, modern, lit, open to all, including high-performance centers for elite athletes to train, recover, compete at international standards, and not forgetting nutrition. We will train and properly pay coaches because great talent needs great leaders. We will create job pathways in sports from referees, trainers, media, marketing, physiotherapy, even being a chiropractor. We will make physical activity a daily part of school life to fight NCDs and mental illness from an early age. This is not policy on paper. This is purpose. This is people. This is pride. And to the all young athletes out there, whether it be from Lodge Road, Gore Hill, Deacons, Haynesville, or Saints beyond, near and far, listen to me well, listen carefully. I see you, we believe in you, and we are all fighting for you at NNP. Because this fight for me is personal as well. I know what it feels like to be counted out. I've been told I'll never make it, and I did. So now I stand for every youth who needs the same opportunity and chance that I received. The time for talk is over. The time for action is now. Let's start managing decline and start building excellency. Let's move Barbados forward, one sport, one youth, one vision at a time. And before I close, I would like to leave this with you. Sports is power, youth is the future. Let's act like it. Thank you very much.
Now, I want to I want to introduce to you our next spokesperson, who's going to be our candidate in the constituency of St. Lucie. And he's going to be the spokesperson on infrastructure, transport logistics, and civil aviation. I want to introduce to you all Mr. Fred Carbon, again, who's going to contest for the New National Party in the constituency of St. Lucie.
Thank you very much, Chairman Stewart. And good evening to all the sovereign nationals of Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. For those of you who are seeing me for the first time, you would have heard me more than seeing me. And now you're seeing the person behind the voice. And when I first came to the attention of the public at the COVID Town Hall meeting on the 18th of August, 2021, I made a pledge to Barbados and to the Caribbean. And my words then, as they are now, I represent the people of Barbados and the people of the Eastern Caribbean. In so doing, I have been honored to join Chairman Stewart of the New National Party, and I'm taking this opportunity to address all of you as sovereign nationals of Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. One of the core competencies of joining the NNP is the ability to bring a level of expertise not only in infrastructure, but also an understanding of what the parish of St. Lucie desperately needs and the people who are living there desperately need. And having lived in St. Lucie for 5 years on my own, and also I must say that St. Lucie is a bit of an ancestral home, because the founder of Mount Gay Distilleries, A.S. Ward, is actually my great-great-great-great-grandfather. So it's a bit of a homecoming for me in St. Lucie. That being said, is that we understand the issues that are facing the parish of St. Lucie. Terrible roads, even worse water supply, toxic water supply, intermittent electricity and internet services, which are dismal at best, and an inability for transportation to service the parish properly simply because of disorganization and a lack of planning. What I want to be able to bring to St. Lucie is a clear vision, which Mr. Stewart shares with me. And that vision has its genesis in the research program that I led for 10 years called the Free Winds Caribbean Food Security and Regional Development Initiative. And the opportunities that are coming to St. Lucie and to Barbados are taken from that research project. Free Winds Caribbean Food Security and Regional Development Initiative did a 10-year research program on every single Caribbean and CARICOM nation. And Barbados was one of the focal points with regard to development for our nation. No one could have foreseen the level of destruction that had been wrought upon our country by the Barbados Labour Party and the crew in charge, who take instructions from outside entities who have absolutely no interest in the prosperity of the sovereign nationals of this country. My mission, which I have chosen to accept, is to bring St. Lucie to the point where it is a cherished parish of this nation, where St. Lucie is a standard that remains set, a standard that remains set in excellence, a standard that creates its own tourism, because people want to come to St. Lucie and see what has been done and see the progress that can happen in a parish that is cared for, mentored, and that the spiritual power of progress in amongst its own people can be brought to the fore. Having said all of that, without revealing too much and without putting the cart before the horse, we must be able to bring a level of competence to the table for the development of St. Lucie, and that depends on each and every one of you living there. I'm not here to hold anybody's hand. I'm not here to curry any favors. And least of all, I am not here to be a politician. I'm here to be a leader. Politics as far removed from my psyche as anything in this world. And one of the most important things that I want to be able to bring to the people of St. Lucie is to demonstrate the ability to put things into action with your all's help. This is a hearts and minds program for the people of St. Lucie. This is the hearts and minds program that elevates St. Lucie to a level that other parishes will be envious of. This is the hearts and minds program that brings the children of St. Lucie into a fold of development that has never been seen before. And this speaks directly to what Mr. Che Goring has just said with regard to mentoring our young people across this country, and the young people in St. Lucie will be given the same opportunities, equal opportunities for all of our children. And we have to remember that at this particular point in time, our young people are under assault from many different directions. Peer pressure, medical terrorism, medical martial law being introduced in this country and still governing the country. Medical martial law being the order of the day by the crew in charge of the Barbados Labour Party. And we have the opportunity with the new National Party to stand up, lay hold of a staff of righteousness, power and spiritual integrity, and take this country to prosperity. And it depends on every single one of you watching this program this evening. Not just the people of St. Lucie, but the people of Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean and the wider Caribbean diaspora, of which Barbadians constitute a large percentage. In the days when we were dependent on reparations coming from our citizens who left Barbados to rebuild Europe after the Second World War, a lot of complacency fell into place with regard to financing coming into the country and so on by those individuals, sending money back home to Barbados. Those days are over. Let's be real. Let's face the reality. Those days are over. So we have to look at the economic prospects for Barbados and build upon the local expertise. And we invite the business community of Barbados to join with the new National Party to bring a level of localized integrity to development of business opportunities for Barbados. And how do we do this? We do this by setting a standard for the incentivization of every single business in this country. And that is bringing about a focused conversation with the business community on what can we do together to build our country to where it needs to be as a contributor to the global economic sphere. What is our GDP earning power going to be when we come together and look at Barbados in the geopolitical spectrum of the twilight of a CARICOM environment? Let's be real. Twilight of CARICOM environment. CARICOM and CARI gone a long time. Okay? Just let's put it very, very plain. There is no more CARICOM. CARICOM has been kicked to the curb simply because the global geopolitical spectrum has changed. The most important thing that we want to achieve is being able to bring that vision to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. What Barbados represents for the Eastern Caribbean has always been a standard that has been aspired to. The new National Party and what we represent as representatives of our individual constituencies aim to make that happen. Thank you for your attention this evening.
So thank you, Mr. Corbin, for eloquent speech put forward. We're glad to have you on board with the vision that you have for Barbados. And it shows that the new National Party is moving from strength to strength. So again, you have Mr. Goring first and you have Mr. Corbin. So I want to introduce to you next somebody who you know, who's our spokesperson on education, and who's also the chairwoman of the General Committee of the NMP, Ms. Natalie Paris. So I'm going to hand over the baton to Natalie to continue to bat on such a stellar wicket that has been set so far. Yes, so go ahead.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Good afternoon, all, fellow Barbadians. Today, I sit before you with my colleagues to address some of the more critical challenges facing our nation and to present a comprehensive vision for transformation. As I see it, we are at a crossroads. One path leads to continued decline in educational outcomes, escalating violence, and a progressing yet fragmented healthcare system of delivery. The other path leads to renewal, integration, and genuine prosperity for all Barbadians. It is our view that the issues we face are interconnected. A child who cannot access quality health care cannot learn effectively. A teacher working in an unsafe environment cannot nurture young minds. A community lacking wellness cannot support its youth. Today, we commit to addressing these challenges not as separate problems, but as components of a single transformative mission. I think you have heard from my colleagues thus far, and we have all been singing basically similar thoughts and concepts. Based on our research, our educational landscape encompasses, say, around 68 primary schools, 21 secondary schools, 12 nursery schools, and 4 special needs schools. These are all there to serve our nation's children. This represents generations of investment in accessible education. We must acknowledge that what we do well as a country. Barbados has maintained a tradition of literacy and learning that is the envy of many nations. We offer free tuition from nursery through tertiary education, ensuring that financial barriers do not prevent access to knowledge. We understand that our educators bring dedication and expertise to their classrooms daily. The recent announcement of our transition to a junior college system or high school system, eliminating the need for Barbados secondary school entrance examination by supposed to be next year, represents a significant step toward educational equity. However, we must also remember our younger ones, so that the transition between kindergarten, elementary, and primary can be seamless before transitioning on to high school. We have often deliberated the fact that we cannot build on these strengths while ignoring the escalating crisis that threatens to undermine everything we have achieved thus far. The recent assault of a teacher at Frederick Smith Secondary School, where an educator was struck in the head with a rock thrown by a student, represents a dangerous escalation that resulted in the school's temporary closure. We all know this. This was some weeks ago. But this incident is not isolated. It follows a disturbing pattern of violence that includes incidents involving weapons, substance abuse, and aggressive behavior in educational settings. In my view, the reality is uncompromising. Teachers have been assaulted, requiring medical attention and leave of absence. Students are learning in environments where their safety is uncertain. No child can learn, and no teacher can teach when they fear for their physical safety. That is just one of these humane things. This violence is not merely a disciplinary issue. It is a symptom of deeper societal fractures that have found expression in our most sacred spaces of learning. We recognize that this crisis stems from multiple interconnected factors again. Young people are increasingly disconnected from their innate capacity for self-regulation and emotional balance. The educational environment has become a pressure cooker, so to speak, lacking the nurturing elements essential for authentic human development. Current approaches address symptoms rather than root causes. failing to integrate emotional, physical, and spiritual wellness, as well as mental. And the traditional support systems that once guided youth toward healthy expression, like what Mr. Goring was talking about, sports, have eroded over time. The persistent rise in teenage crime rates forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about our youth intervention systems. We note that the consolidation of services at institutions like the GIS at Dodds and the Ed Nichols Center, while presented as improvements, has not alleviated legitimate public concerns about whether vulnerable youth are receiving evidence-based, trauma-informed care necessary for genuine behavioral healing and transformation. When crime among teenagers continues to surge despite the existence of specialized intervention facilities, we must ask fundamental questions. For instance, number one, are our approaches evidence-based? Number two, are they adequately being resourced? Human resource as well as tool resourced. And number three, are they measuring success in meaningful ways? Parents, teachers, community leaders deserve transparency regarding program outcomes, staffing, therapeutic methods, and measurable success rates, which we would like to think has been a work in progress, especially given incidents that have come to the public's attention over the past few years. While we respect the sensitivity of these cases, we must also remember that the importance of child safety and confidentiality, accountability and transparency is paramount, and I emphasize paramount. And outcomes, the aggregate outcomes to these things are not optional. They are essential for public trust and program development and improvement. We appeal to the current authorities to consider commissioning, perhaps within the next 18 months, a comprehensive independent assessment of youth rehabilitation and training services in Barbados. This evaluation will examine facility conditions, staff training protocols, therapeutic program effectiveness, family engagement strategies, and post-release support systems. Most importantly, this assessment should prioritize the voices of young people who have experienced these services firsthand already. Effective youth rehabilitation requires more than good intentions. It demands evidence-based practices, adequate funding, and qualified personnel, and robust oversight mechanisms to ensure that these programs continue to work effectively. Until these elements are demonstrably in place, public concerns about the gap between rehabilitation, rhetoric, and reality will persist. We recognize and accept the ministry's zero tolerance policy when it comes to violence and crime. This crisis demands, but I have to say that this crisis with the youth demands more than traditional disciplinary measures or reactive policies. We need transformational leadership that integrates practical solutions with evidence-based knowledge and wisdom to bring about lasting change. You hear me emphasizing evidence-based knowledge and wisdom, because these two things hand in hand is a recipe for success. Education is a sacred trust to nurture the whole being of our young people, especially within our island and Caribbean context. Our children deserve learning environments that foster their innate wisdom, creativity, and capacity for peaceful coexistence with one another, with their peers, with the adults that are around them, supporting them, and so on. So do the caregivers who work with these children on a daily basis. Now, I'm just going to touch on the plans for new schools being built on island. And the plans for the climate schools are commended and can represent more than building renovation. They can actually represent a fundamental reimagining of how education can happen if done correctly. These schools can serve as living laboratories where students learn sustainability, not just from textbooks, but through the very buildings they occupy, the energy systems they use, and the environmental practices they observe daily. If all goes to plan, say within 2 or 3 years, Barbados could have established 3 pilot climate schools, which I think is the intention, that will serve as models in the Caribbean region. It is our hope, however, that these facilities integrate renewable energy systems, water conservation technologies, sustainable agricultural programs, and climate resilience infrastructure. In doing so, students can graduate not just with academic credentials, but with practical skills in environmental stewardship and sustainable living. The approach to school violence should be comprehensive and evidence-based, as I've said. Research from the U.S. National Institute of Justice demonstrates that school-based conflict resolution programs can reduce violence in high-risk schools by up to 50% if done properly. We suggest implementing programs like this, but that fit into the Caribbean context, adapted for our children, beginning with our most challenged schools. We advocate for the introduction of mandatory social emotional learning curricula in all primary schools. Teachers should receive specialized training in trauma-informed practices, conflict de-escalation, and mental health first aid, so to speak. We propose the establishment of peer mediation programs led by students themselves, recognizing that young people often respond better when talking to other young people or young people that are a little older than them, instead of always from adults. Sometimes they're willing to open up more that way. Now I'm just going to touch on wellness. Kimar didn't mention the wellness aspect, but I have prepared, so I will go ahead and say a little something. My colleague Che would have already hit some key points with respect to the alignment with sports. Now, physical wellness begins with accessible, efficient health care delivery. Well, we are fortunate to have universal health care coverage and a network of a set of polyclinics strategically located throughout the island. The way we deliver these services must evolve to meet the demands of this time. The time has come, or in my view, the time has come to fully embrace digital transformation in our healthcare system. We urge for the immediate implementation, or we urge for the implementation of integrated technology systems across all polyclinics to ensure seamless access to medical records, reduce wait times, and to improve continuity of care. When a patient visits the Morris Bayer Polyclinic in St. Peter or the Edgar Cochrane Clinic in St. Michael, their complete medical history should be at a state where it is easily accessible to healthcare providers, eliminating the frustration of repeated paperwork and ensuring comprehensive care. This digital integration extends beyond convenience. It's about saving lives. Emergency situations require immediate access to patient information, medical histories, and treatment records. Our healthcare providers deserve the tools they need to deliver optimal care, and our citizens deserve sufficient, efficient, coordinated health services. We call upon the authorities to complete or to start to move towards the rollout of electronic health records across all polyclinics. The recent collaboration as researched with the Pan-American Health Organization to strengthen our health information systems provides the foundation for this transformation. But time is of the essence. The commitment to refurbish polyclinics and rebuild 2 others represents more than infrastructural improvement. It represents an opportunity to create fully integrated, technologically advanced healthcare facilities. We believe that mental health, wellness or mental health in Barbados must be understood as essential as well, not optional. As a society, we must eliminate the stigma that prevents people from seeking help when they struggle with depression, anxiety, trauma, or other mental health challenges. In our schools, mental wellness means creating environments where children feel safe to express their emotions, where counseling services are readily available, and where social emotional learning is valued and increasingly disconnected from their innate. We must recognize that the young people are increasingly disconnected from their innate capacity for self-regulation, which I had already mentioned before. Lastly, I would say that our approach must integrate emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual wellness rather than treating these things as separate. When we see escalating patterns of violence, we must realize that these are symptoms of something deeper in the society or around their environment that is going on, and it should be investigated. Lastly, spiritual wellness. This does not belong to any single faith or tradition. It is about the human need for meaning, purpose, and connection. In Barbados, this means honoring the diverse spiritual traditions that enrich our society while recognizing the common threads that bind us all together. For our children, spiritual wellness means helping them develop a sense of purpose, teaching them to contribute to their communities, and nurturing their capacity for empathy and compassion. It means showing them that they are part of something larger than themselves, whether that is within their family structure, whether that's in their community, whether that's within a nation or their faith tradition. For our broader community, spiritual wellness means creating spaces for reflection, celebration, and shared purpose. It means supporting the institutions, whether they be churches, community centers, cultural organizations, that help people find meaning and connection. I have some more time? You want me to wrap up? Huh? Okay. So I will leave it there for now, and you will hear more from us. I have more to say, but we will send out other information to Sue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Paris. Some interesting perspectives on education and wellness. A lot to think about. So, who's the minister? Well, the ministers of education. The new National Party is leading a new conversation on what could be done for education. So we are urging you to listen. The new National Party is ready to step up and to carve up different ideas and ideologies to help rescue this country. As you know, education right now is in an entire mess. Violence in schools, teachers, violence against teachers. Everything is going wrong in education right now. So we have a plan that could correct the issues in education. The new National Party is asking the people of Barbados to give us the opportunity as an alternative party to represent you as a government and to lead Barbados into the future. We're going to ask Mr. Omar Smith to say a brief word on his portfolio, and his portfolio will be labor. Ironically, we are here at the Unity Workers Union, which happens to be the best workers union in Barbados. The Unity Workers Union is the only union at this point who has been seriously representing for the people in this country. So any person who wants serious representation, contact Mr. Caswell Franklin. Soon enough, Mr. Omar Smith will become a very important face in the issues of labor. So in the interest of time, we're just going to ask him to introduce himself as the party's new spokesperson on labor, and to also say a brief comment. Yeah. So welcome, Omar.
Yes, please. Thank you so much, Mr. President. Thank you so much, everybody from the party. It's definitely a resounding pleasure to be here, not only on the behalf of the presence and the positions of this party, but equally really profoundly grateful to be a person who has been given to me one of the most important roles in government, or leading in any governance of any country, that is labor, which encompasses every ministry that exists within any country across the global space of things. And therefore, today I want to briefly say it's been a long time. Change is going to come. And the new National Party is totally about changing, or as one of the reggae singers would say, we can set the trend. A whole different approach to bringing deliverance of governance to this country, and realistically recognizing that for too long, persons in this country has been not only underpaid, but equally greeted by some roughness and some recklessness that we can no longer deal with. We must really tackle these problems, especially that exist along the realms of the lower income fractions. And therefore, young people, especially today, are no longer able to access what you will call liberty based on the economic sovereignty. They now have to succumb to credit and things that put them in a dire strait. We can no longer, in the new National Party, coexist with this kind of recklessness. We need to change the direction and the trajectory, as the Prime Minister will call, but I don't really think that is the best terminology, because trajectory normally leads in the roads of destruction. But in the path of liberty, the way that we can really reconstruct with my fellow guy here, who is within that realm of really rebuilding and restructuring the country in a holistic way, a whole different space. And this is where we need to do. We need to really take a conscious approach in recognizing the wealth that exists within dignity, and really respecting everybody and people's rights. And we shouldn't have to have a circumstance whereby the double-edged sword exists across party lines, whereby you have persons in government representing equally unions. This is a atrocity. It is a double-edged sword that needs to be addressed. It needs to be something that is cut away from the governance of this country. And we realistically need the Prime Minister to be bold enough to recognize and to be true to her citizens and her country, that what she is doing is really dangerous. It isn't a circumstance that you can be self-serving, but if you're going to let democracy totally live, we can't have these two-pronged approaches to the circumstance. And equally, we can look at the decay of all society, where we persons in the working force, whether it be nurses, whether it be doctors, whether it be lawyers, well, for certain things. We need to recognize that we need to treat people properly. Supervisors equally, managers equally, need to take away this prostitutive tone that they have been taking. We need to make Barbados right again, and it can only become right if you take that conscious approach in treating people with this respect and the dignity that is necessary to propel growth in this country. And therefore, under my watch, Mr. Jordan, you have a problem. And we are going to be really going forward in a holistic way. And as the party leader would have said, very soon everything in terms of availability will be made available to you, the public. And we are going to be really, instead of coming to the bosom of liberty, which we sit here today, we are going to change this country in a huge and dramatic way. Thank you, Barbados. Thank you.
Yes, so you heard it from our spokespersons, you heard it from our candidates, you heard it from our representatives, executive members. But let me just say that part of my, I delivered an impassioned address. Ironically, but as we say, we had the issue, or we're having a cyber issue. So to address this cyber issue that we're having, we should let the public know that we were hacked by some Nigerian scammers. And these Nigerian scammers called every single person in this group, called them on their cell phones, introducing them to the new National Party. They even called me, introducing me to the new National Party. You know, providing links and stuff for us to sign on to meeting links and stuff. And when you sign on, your entire phone was, you know, intruded and perverted. So this is a message to the hackers who are working with other hackers to, you know, get under the skin of the NNP. That we will get the message out there. We will get the message across. In our good fight to represent Barbados, we had a live stream this evening, and our live stream was just cut right in our face yet again. So I am saying to the powers that be, fairer, please let us go. Please let the people go. So for those persons who missed it, we're just going to do a brief recap of what was addressed here today. Again, we had the introduction by Ms. Barrow Jules. We had our party chairman, Joseph Cadogan. We had the introduction of our first two candidates. So we have three candidates in all. Myself in St. John, Mr. Corbin in St. Lucie, and Mr. Sheagorin in Christchurch, East Central. Just to make sure you have it correct. We addressed the issue of the Parliamentary Reform Committee, where we say that we are the only party who is interested in having the people of this country having a say in the Republic, but allowing the voters to vote directly for the president. We also spoke about the fact that there might be an early election in Barbados, and we gave you the reasons why before they gleefully cut off our live stream. We said as a party that by the end of June 30th, and this is not our speculation, this is according to the Barbados Constitutional Amendment Act of 2021 that was passed by the, I would dare say, illegitimate parliament that we have, to take us on to a, I would say, a false republic, that by June the 30th, the public of Barbados should have known if Sandra Mason will continue to serve as president for an additional 4 years. This is now July. So we are asking the Prime Minister to come to the public and to say And we're not just asking, this is the law asking you that 6 months before November, you should have announced to the public once Sandra Mason agrees, if she would have been there for an additional 4 years. However, your comments in Parliament, which says that the president's tenure will come to an end at November, we are saying clearly that the law says you're supposed to say by June 30th, it should be there for another 4 years. Both you, in consultation with the opposition leaders, should have agreed on that decision, and we should have known. We don't know at this point. So before time gets away too much, we need to know as required by law, because within 3 months now, which is September, a new president should be announced in consultation with both you and the opposition leader if that person is not Sandra Mason. Right? So it's Section 32 of the Barbados Constitutional Amendment Act guarantees that the public should know within 90 days of November 2025 if a new person is going to be nominated. So the reason why there might be an early election in August is because there's high speculation that the Prime Minister herself may be interested in the office of presidency. And if that is the case, because you willfully said that you're going to do 2 prime ministerial terms, but you're going 3, you understand when there's a dearth for leadership, you have to do those things. But we are hearing rumors, we are hearing speculations of the early election because there might be the possibility of the Prime Minister being interested in the President. And we explain how that could become practical. But we are saying as a party, we want the people of Barbados to vote for whoever that president is. We also touched briefly on the crime situation, speaking to the fears of the people. And we also touched on this notion of domestic terrorism, a comment that was made by the Commissioner of Police. We extensively went through that, but I guess, due to the serious nature of the comments you made, you were silent. Due to the seriousness of today's press conference, we also invited every single media house there was in Barbados. We don't have the media houses present today, which is totally understandable. So again, Farah, let the people go. I gave a message of hope earlier, and we spoke to the instance of the burning bush. And for those biblical persons, you will know that the burning bush was not consumed by the fire, and Moses was tasked at the time to lead his people through what they call the proverbial Red Sea. And this country needs a party that is going to lead it, not hypocritically, but upright and honest to the so-called promised land, where Barbados could be rescued from domestic terrorists and domestic terrorism. So, I ain't calling the boy the terrorist, but I'm going to ask that question according to the Commissioner of Police's speech. We spoke about terrorism. They formed the Anti-Corruption and the Anti-Terrorism Unit in 2021, Mr. Dale Marshall, and he said that our local police force don't have the manpower to be able to handle these issues. His statements, again, were in alignment with what was said at the regional heads of government CARICOM meeting, which was held right here in Barbados. Mr. Corbyn spoke about the fact that CARICOM is dead. We are seeing signs of CARICOM being dead with the absence of the Trinidadian Prime Minister, Ms. Kamala Persad-Besessar, who's not going to that meeting, which will be held very soon in the next day or 2 days. So we're asking really what's happening because, again, former Prime Minister Rowley, who played a big part in CARICOM, who was the National Security Minister in the CARICOM quasi-cabinet, who made the announcement about gang violence being regarded as domestic terrorism, and Prime Minister Andrew Holness agree with that statement, going as far as to saying that there are businesses and enterprises operating under disguise as criminal gangs who are trying to weaken governments and corrupt public officials. My parting question to the government and the law enforcement who has responsibility for it is, are there criminal organizations in Barbados operating under the disguise of businesses and legit enterprises who are engaged in these terrorist-like activities, who are weakening governments and corrupting and bribing off public officials? And what is the government doing to root out corruption and root out rogue elements in these security agencies who are supposed to have responsibility to ensure that our borders are protected? So all of the Caribbean prime ministers, including our prime minister, spoke to wiretapping and surveillance to be able to capture these criminal gangs operating as legit businesses. So I want to know, who are these persons? Again, I'm not putting that responsibility at the commissioner, because as we rightfully said, that name change in the police force, they went from a Royal Barbados Police Force to the Barbados Police Service, which should really, that T in the Barbados should really represent transgender, because you cut the genitals off the police force and you turn it into an accounting service where you just put there to collect revenue and to collect money, but have no real power to go after these so-called domestic terrorists who are terrorizing Barbados, according to the Commissioner of Police. Mr. Holness, he got it done. Crime in Jamaica's coming down. So why can't Barbados bring down crime? Jamaica has MOCA, the major organized crime agency, anti-corruption agency, and is working for them. So why can't our anti-corruption and anti-terrorism unit that's headed by Mr. Darwin Dunning, who was removed from the force of wiretapping, why can't it work under him? Why can't we tackle these so-called terrorists? So I would await the regional heads of government meeting, which is being held in the next few days, to see what our regional leaders come up with for us as it relates to tackling this issue of crime and terrorist organizations and gang violence, and then to see what is handed down to us through our local anti-terrorism unit, which seems to be the real police force. Now, who does this real police force answer to? The Minister of National Security. How is the Minister of National Security? The Prime Minister, not the Attorney General. So asking the Attorney General to tackle crime when he was basically strict on gender neutered, to tackle crime is like, I don't know. Anyhow, I am sure after CARICOM, these leaders will meet with Mr. Rubio once more as U.S. Secretary of State. And again, this Caribbean Basin Security Initiative should take priority in tackling these illegal narcotics, firearms, and dismantling these criminal organizations that are plaguing the Caribbean. So hopefully we could get some answers from the powers that be on who exactly are these criminal organizations operating in Barbados, corrupting public officials and weakening governments, who are now being labeled as domestic terrorists. Anyhow, I should say, and as the Bible says, when you build one gallows, you should build two. So while trying to label the people of this country as domestic terrorists, included in that same legislation is the description of a biological terrorist and biological weapons being used to terrorize the people of this country. So the same way MOCA in Jamaica is going after their terrorists, the criminal terrorists, I'm here to say that there is the possibility that that same legislation could be used to go after those who enacted biological terrorism on the people of Barbados and the Caribbean. So all I'm going to end with is Bill 1 gallows, Bill 2, and to give the people a message of hope that a real alternative party, which is not compromised by a fake opposition who's been planted to help destroy any real legitimate opposition, a real alternative party that will speak to the issues of the people and not seek to slander and spread rumors and tell lies about the people who dare try to represent this country. And I'm going to end with this last note again to keep the integrity of the NMP above board. This party is in no way funded by any mere Motley. This party is not attached to anybody in the Barbados Labour Party. Kimar Stewart, again, never received any money, any instructions, or not even a good idea from the Prime Minister of this country, Mayor Motley. And I'm asking again the opposition leader, Mr. Turn, to cease and desist from scandaling the integrity of the good people who put their hands up, and to say again that the tentacles of Motley stop at you, sir, and it has not reached over to the Barbados. All right, I will start right there before they cut all the stream yet again. But just, I need to reiterate that point, and to make sure that the public knows very well, and to put back to any rumors, because this party is funded by its members, and we want to keep that message up there to the public. That is my last warning. The next time I have to return to a press conference to address any slanderous notions being put out there by the opposition leader, I can assure you that I will be returning with printed documents to prove who's really the corrupt one and who's really the one who lacks integrity and who's really the one who is connected to the Barbados Labour Party. I end with that. Thank you very much, everyone. And I would just ask all of our spokespersons and candidates to stand to let the general public see exactly who we are and to say goodbye and thank you for tuning in. So, thank you very much, people of Barbados. These are the candidates and the spokespersons for the new National Party, and we wish to, tell you thank you and to urge you to continue to support us. Come on board with the new National Party. We are seeking membership. We're also seeking partnerships as well, and we're very open to collaboration in seeking to represent the issues for the people of Barbados. Take a good look at these men and women and to ensure you get acquainted with them very early, as these are the persons who are going to be carrying the mantle for you and bringing the message of hope, real hope, not hope like the Hope Project, but real serious hope to the people of Barbados, because this country needs to be rescued and it needs to be restored, not with the same old traditions, but with a vision for the future of Barbados over the next 25 years. So thank you very much, as we are at the end of the press conference. Let's give ourselves an applause.